first things first. I know I have different setup right now. I'm just gonna see how this goes. I don't really know what I'm doing in terms of like my actual setup. I just want to try something different. Okay, so that's point one. Point two, my camera, I didn't charge it before. So I'm hoping I have enough battery space before it dies to film this video, but who knows? We're on three. Three, the books beside me are very overwhelming. So I'm gonna try to get through this speedy quick, okay? Okay, great. Hello everyone and welcome to my channel. If you are new, if you're not new, welcome back to my channel. My name is Marina and today I'm doing something a little different on my channel. Doing a tag thing that YouTubers do, booktubers specifically. I'm doing the mid-year book freakout tag because I felt like it and I realized that I read a lot of books this year, enough where I can like actually film something like this. I have all of the stuff here. I'm gonna be answering all the questions and everything, and it's gonna be a good, fun little time. I realized that the past like 6-7 months I have just been reading a lot of series, so while I go through this tag you might realize that a lot of the books I'm naming are from series or a part of a series of some kind. I don't really read as many contemporaries as I really should, or novels. It's not that I dislike them, I don't know, I get through series really quickly, whereas contemporary novels for some reason it takes me a while because I don't want the story to end. You know, with series they can go on forever, meanwhile with like contemporaries, if it's really good I will slow down and take my time and read them. So I haven't read as many contemporaries this year. Yeah, okay, let's just get on to the tag, shall we? First question is, best book you've read so far in 2021. Now I had a few choices for this one because here, like throughout the rest of this tag you're probably also going to realize that I have more than one book for each question because I'm indecisive and I can't decide. So I couldn't choose between two specific books, Song of Achilles and Legendborn. This is by Madeline Miller. This is by Tracy Dion. You guys know my feelings towards these books. I'm pretty sure I talked about this one in my March wrap up and this one in my June wrap up, either June or May wrap up, but I love these two books dearly. And yeah, best books I've read so far in 2021. They're just so good. They're not the same whatsoever, like the concept, the plot, nothing about these two books are the same, but the way that they pulled at my heartstrings and made me feel, it's just a lot. Okay, so yeah, best books I've read so far, these two for sure. If you guys don't know, Song of Achilles is Greek mythology retelling following Patroclus and his budding friendship with Achilles, and later on romance with Achilles along the way, and how being in love with Achilles affects how they are later on in the Trojan War, kinda, from what I remember. Legendborn is a King author retelling about this girl named Bree who is going through a lot of grief and trauma after her mom passed away. And while she's going through this, she is attending an early college school where she finds some secret society that may or may not have something to do with her mom's death. Number two, best sequel you've read so far in 2021. As I've mentioned before, I have read nothing really much but series the past few months, so all I've been reading are sequels, so this is really hard for me to choose. If I really had to choose, it would be, of course, A Court of Mist and Fury by Sarah J. Maas, the sequel to the A Court of Thorns and Roses series over here. I thought that the hype wasn't going to be deserved. It was deserved in the end. Y'all were right. This is a really good sequel. My favorite, if not like second favorite in the series, Sarah did what she had to do with this. I'm gonna give her that. I'm gonna give her those points. Good job. It was a really good sequel. And then I don't know what happened to the rest of the books along the way, but I'm not going to talk about that in this video. Okay, number three, new release you haven't read yet but want to. First book I want to read is actually right next to me, Ace of Spades by Farida Abike Iyamide. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right. Correct me if I'm wrong. I got this actually today at Barnes Nobles because I couldn't wait anymore. Like I had to get it. Like as soon as I read the synopsis about this a few months ago for like new releases and stuff, I knew I had to get it eventually. But I have it. I don't know when I'm gonna read it. Probably soon. I've heard that it's like a mixture of like Get Out and Gossip Girl, and like two of the black kids that are the main characters are queer, and honestly that's all I really need to know. I kind of like Gossip Girl. I love Get Out, love black people. I love that they're queer. I feel like I'm gonna have a really good time with this. Any of the books I've been reading this year, none of them have been like thrillers, so very excited for that. Next book I want to read is Wings of Ebony by JL. I almost got that book today as well, but I had to pace myself because I got other books that I needed to read beforehand. But I do want to get to this book eventually because I'm pretty sure it has something to do with Greek mythology as well. Like the main character is a descendant of Greek gods. It has something to do with the police brutality happening in the main character's town, Houston, I think. It sounded really intriguing, but I can't remember the plot to save my life. But all I heard, black main lead, Greek mythology. That's all I really need. Another book I can't wait to read, Lore by Alexandra Bracken. Another Greek mythology book. I've heard so much about it, but I can't remember the plot to save my life. I'm pretty sure it's not like the Hunger Games, but it's like Greek gods get to come down to earth as punishment for like a few weeks and like get one of their descendants to fight for them in like some battle or whatever. I don't remember. I think that's something along the lines, but it sounded really intriguing when I heard about it back in January when it came out, and the fact that I still have not read it yet is kind of terrible. So I want to get to that. Last book I want to get to is After Age by Eve Brown, the last book in the Brown Sisters trilogy. I started this trilogy back in May with the first book being Get a Life, Chloe Brown, and then I also read the second book this month. You guys are gonna see my review of that in my book wrap-ups. But yeah, I really like the books. I can't wait to get started on the last book in the series. Eve, I think, is my favorite sister possibly out of all of them, so I'm really excited to read that. Number 4, most anticipated release for the second half of the year. I'm gonna be honest, I looked at the books that are releasing later on in the year and I wasn't that excited for many, but just off the top of my head, the ones I was really excited for, one being Empire of the Vampire by Jay Kristoff. I know that he's very like popular in like the booktube, book Twitter, book talk world. I've never read any of his books, mainly because like I know that he's somewhat problematic of sorts, but I've heard that his writing is really good and I'm in the mood for vampire books. I feel like we've lost that genre a little too early when it actually started. I need those books back in my life, and if he's coming out with a vampire book, I might read it just to see what his writing style is all about and vampires. So yes, I think that's coming out in September or October. I know that the release date for it has been delayed like multiple times, so I really don't know. It might come out this year, it might not. I don't want to jinx anything though. Next book I'm really excited for, A Psalm of Storms and Silence by Roseanne A. Brown. It's the sequel to A Song of Wraiths and Ruin, which I also read this month and I really liked. You guys are going to get more of my detail and input on that book in my July wrap up, but yeah, I loved the first book and I feel like I'm gonna really like the second book. From the way that the first book ended, I'm gonna really enjoy myself with the second one. I feel like I liked everything about the first book. Another book I'm somewhat excited about, These Violent Ends by Chloe Gong, which is the sequel and I think the final book to These Violent Delights duology. I think it's a duology. You guys know how I felt about These Violent Delights. I wasn't like raved about it like everyone else. I felt like I was missing something, so I'm hoping that like the second book does something for me, because I really didn't feel much for many of the characters or much of the plot in the first one, but I feel like with the way that the first book ended, there's a lot to be left with the second book. Like it could go either way, any way. I'm very excited. The last book I'm somewhat excited for is The Legacy by Elle Kennedy. This is the wrap-up book for the off-campus series. It's like a novella of sorts. It's just gonna follow all of the characters that we saw in the previous 4 books of the off-campus series and show what they're doing now with their lives. And You guys know that I really enjoyed the off-campus series, so I'm very excited for whatever this book is about to entail. Number 5, biggest disappointments so far of 2021. First one, A Court of Silver Flames. I know you guys are really like, what? Because if you saw my review of it and my monthly wrap-up, you're gonna be like, what are you talking about? My feelings for this book have like fluctuated a lot within the past few months. I don't know, but I feel like that wrap-up review that I gave a few months back didn't do like my actual feelings for the book justice. Like, I feel like I was on a Nessian high when I went on that review, but now that I've gotten off that high and I've tried to reread this book again, it's really hard to get through. I don't know where we went wrong. I don't want to talk about it. Another disappointment for me was Children of Virtue and Vengeance by Tommy Adeyemi. Yeah, a lot of people have mixed feelings about this series. I feel like this sequel was just not good. You guys know how I feel if you saw my review on this. That was an accurate review of how I feel. I just didn't enjoy this book as much as I really enjoyed the first one. Like I mentioned before, These Violent Delights I wasn't that big of a fan of, but again, I'm hoping the best for the sequel, because I will be reading the sequel. I'm hoping that I enjoy it a little bit more than the first one, but we're just gonna have to see. Another book that I was a little disappointed by was The Chase by Elle Kennedy. This was the first book in the Briar U series, which is a spin-off of the Off-Campus series. I really was disappointed by this book because it follows 2 good side characters that we saw in the Off-Campus series. They were some of my favorite characters, if I'm being honest. And yet when they got their own book, I was very like, what am I supposed to do with this? This was nothing to me. It left me feeling empty and sad and very disappointed. I don't want to talk about that one either. Number 6, biggest surprise. Okay, so I was kind of confused on what to choose for this one because for the most part, nothing really surprised me. The only like books I could really say were a surprise for me were the Graciaverse trilogy, Shadow and Bone, Siege and Storm, Ruin and Rising. A lot of hate for this series, I'm aware, but for me, I didn't understand the hate. Don't get me wrong, I don't really love the series. I think it's pretty average. I don't understand why the hate for it was so loud. Like, everyone hates this series. But I was surprised when I read it because by the time I finished it, I was like, oh, okay. Was it the best thing I've ever read? No, but I didn't hate it. It was surprising to me somewhat that I wasn't angry, if that makes sense. Next, favorite new author. I don't know about favorite author because most of the authors that I've read from this year, I don't know if I'd ever pick up a book from them again. I've enjoyed most of the books I read this year, thank goodness, but I don't know if I would say that they're like my favorite authors that have written them. So the closest thing I could come up with was Madeline Miller, the author of Song of Achilles. Her writing style is so beautiful. I don't think you guys understand. You have to read one of her books to understand everything that she like says and puts into her writing. It's just so heartfelt, and like you can like the imagery and everything, it's beautiful. And then I guess one of my new favorite-ish writers, Casey McQuiston, the author of Red, White, and Royal Blue. I would definitely read something from her again. Red, White, and Royal Blue, so quirky, so funny, so cute, so wholesome. I loved it. I loved everything about it, and I liked the way that Casey McQuiston wrote as well for this book. I'm pretty sure this is like their debut novel too, so it was really good. I would read something else from them again if like they drop something. Number 8, newest fictional crush. Here's the thing, right? Y'all know that it's like pretty easy for me to crush on characters in books, so I really had to narrow this down as much as I could, and I got to four characters in 3 different books. Okay, y'all know that I'm kind of whipped for Cell and Nick in Legendborn. Those 2 have my whole heart, especially Cell. I'm not explaining myself to anyone. Read Legendborn if you want to understand. Next is Dean from The Score, which is a part of the Off-Campus series. Y'all know my feelings towards that one too. Dean De Laurentiis is that's a man. My other fictional crush Garrison Abbey from Bad Reputation series. Ignore the cover. The cover is horrible, but this is a really good series. It's a spin-off series of the Calloway Sisters slash Addicted series. It follows the side characters of those two series, and Garrison Abbey is one of them. I love him. I loved him from the moment I saw him in the Addicted series, and to see him grow throughout the Calloway Sisters series and this series. My all-time probably book boyfriend. I love him with all my heart. Next, newest favorite characters. Well, to be obvious, I guess you guys know Nesta Archerin has my whole heart. I love her. One of my favorite book characters of all time, personally. If I were to give it to someone else, I'd probably also say Decca from The Gilded Ones. I loved her. You guys know how much I love this book, so like it shouldn't be a surprise. Like the whole time I was reviewing it, I was just saying how much I love Decca. She's just so cool. Everything about her is so cool, so kind of inspiring as well. She's everything that I want in a main character. She's so confident, so sure of herself, so kind, so brave, so courageous. It's just she's perfect. I'm not pulling all these out, but this is the Percy Jackson series. Percy, obviously, that's my nephew. You guys already know Percy Jackson. That's my king, my nephew. Love him to bits and pieces. Last favorite fictional character, Rose Calloway from Calloway Sisters series, Addicted series. She's my favorite sister out of her, Daisy, and Lily. Rose is just like end all be all. Such a great character to read, and like the way that she grew over the series, I kind of want to reread the Addicted series now. That like the way that all the characters grew were so great, but Rose specifically, amazing. I love her. Next, book that made me cry. It doesn't really take much for me to cry when reading a book, as opposed to like in real life situations I don't cry, but for some reason books make me really emotional. I don't know what that's about. First book that came to mind though was The Last Olympian. This is the last book in the Percy Jackson series. Y'all know this is like my favorite in the series if you read my review. So yeah, this had me crying. It had me nervous, had me anxious. It had me bawling in tears from beginning to end. Yeah, Rick Riordan did what he had to do for this one. Definitely. Long Way Down by Kristen Becca Ritchie. This is I think the last book in the Calloway Sisters series. It follows Daisy and Reich. It's their second book in the series, and it's really like emotional. If you've read that book, that might be the most emotional roller coaster out of all the books in that series, and this is a lot because there are 10 books in that series, and they all pull on your heartstrings. But Long Way Down was different. Like it was a lot. Some may say even too much. I would be one of those people. I couldn't handle it. By halfway through the book, I kind of like had to tap out. I stopped reading it after a while because I needed a break. I was feeling a lot of emotions at once while reading it. That's when I knew it's too much. And then another honorary mention to the Addicted / Calloway Sisters series, Some Kind of Perfect, which is the last book overall in the Calloway Sisters / Addicted series. They're separate series, but like they mix together, like the storyline and stuff. You don't have to read them together, but it'll make sense because you can't read Some Kind of Perfect if you haven't read all the books. It is an epilogue novel following the characters after everything they went through the past 9 books. I don't think you guys understand. Those 2 series got me out of my reading slumps. I started it at the end of 2020 and started at the beginning of 2021. Those books will make you feel things. Like reading them back to back was an experience. I read it all in the span of a month. It was a lot, and it made me cry by the end because I knew I would miss them, and I kind of do. I might reread the series. I don't know. Number 11, books that made me happy. I know this totally contradicts what I said before, but like I said, I think Nessie is one of my favorite book ships of all time. So because of that, it did make me happy. Even though this totally contradicts one of the other ones that I did before where I said it's my biggest disappointment of the year, it also made me the happiest. Like the way I was feeling after I first finished this book on my first read, it can't be replicated. Like that's some Nessie Empire if I've ever seen it. Ignoring the plot, there is none. Ignoring the somewhat problematic view of healing and mental health and everything about this book, it did make me happy, like very happy. I finished it in 2 days and it's 800 pages long. I couldn't put it down. It sparked something in me that I really needed at the moment. And yeah, another book that made me happy, Happily Ever Afters by Elise Bryant. I talked about this book briefly in March or April. Was it April? It was either April or March. One of those book wrap-ups, I talked about this book. I talked about how I resonated with Tessa so much. I love her. I love this book. I love the plot. Like everything about this I saw myself in, and it just made me really happy. I felt so seen. If you guys don't know what this book is about, it follows Tessa Johnson as she is going to a new school where she gets to write because she's a writer and she loves writing. So like she's like, oh my god, this is my dream. She moves to a new neighborhood and everything. She's like, she's having a good time until she gets to the school and realizes that she has a writer's block. And to get out of it, her best friend convinces her to live out one of her great romances that she's always written about in her books. So she starts dating one of the popular guys in school, starts getting mixed up in a love triangle, all that stuff. It's really cute, very fun, and it's just everything I love. It really makes me happy. Like this is one of my comfort books for sure. Most beautiful book I've bought so far this year or received. These Violent Delights is definitely up there because look at it. It's just stunning. It's really stunning. And even like without the dust jacket, the little knife on the, not knife, dagger, sword, whatever you want to call it, with the rose, it's just so pretty. Like this book is stunning. I love it. And then the other one is the Gilded Ones. Like, are you kidding me? This cover, it's so pretty. It's these colors. No words. No words. No other books on my shelves can compete with them. Trying to put the dust jacket back into this book and I'm having a very difficult time for some reason. Got it. Okay. What books do you need to read by the end of the year? So the list was kind of long. I had to shorten it down to 5 books. I have a lot I want to read this year. First one being Six of Crows duology. You guys know I want to start it. I didn't want to read it before reading the original Grishaverse trilogy, so I started the Grishaverse trilogy and now I need to start the Six of Crows duology, especially after the show came out and I got to see the crows and what they're supposed to look like and stuff. Like, I'm very intrigued by the characters, so I want to get to those books eventually this year, hopefully before school starts. Next, I want to read a book that's actually on my shelf that I bought today. Cinderella is Dead. I got this book today, and I'm very excited. I want to read it. I don't know when, but I'm definitely going to. I've heard only good things about this book, and I also heard from the author on Twitter that it might be getting a show on Amazon Prime, so I'm very excited, but I also need to read the book. Like, I'm gonna definitely read it, don't worry. I'm gonna get to it eventually. I also really want to read Circe by Madeline Miller. This is another Greek mythology retelling following the tale of Circe, obviously, but also has Madeline Miller's classic twist on it. I'm willing to read anything Madeline Miller puts out. Like, I love her writing, so I want to get to that because I've also heard really positive reviews on that, and I think that came out before the Song of Achilles and everyone hyped that up to the max, so definitely gonna get to that by the end of the year. I also want to read The Hate You Give by Angie Thomas. I know I've never read this book. I really want to because I know that the prequel to it following Star's dad came out this year, and I want to get to that as well. I've seen the movie, but of course, like, I need to read the book because I don't trust movie adaptations with anything, and I feel like the book is definitely going to be better. And then lastly, I want to get to the Mortal Instruments series. I know, very random. Let me explain. Started it in middle school, but I never finished it. I have the first like 2 books right here, but I never finished the second book. I got through the first book. I can't tell you a single thing of what it's about. There's dust everywhere because I haven't pulled out these books in so long. I want to read this just so I can figure out the hype. I know that the Mortal Instruments series, like, you either love it or hate it. And the spin-off series for the Shadowhunter novels are kind of more hyped up than this one, but I feel like this is a good place to start when it comes to Cassandra Clare's Shadowhunter universe stuff. And yeah, I already have the first 2 books, so I feel like once I start reading these, then I'll probably hopefully get back into the series. All I really know is that it got a movie adaptation that flopped. Incest, but not incest. Runes. That's all I know. I'm low-key intrigued, so let's just see how that goes. I know it's like 7 or 8 books long. I don't know how committed I'm gonna be. It depends on how good of a series it is. Hopefully I can finish it by the end of the year because then I can read the spin-off series, because everyone says that the spin-off or like prequel continuation series or whatever are a lot better. And yeah, that's about it. That was the last question. Hope you guys enjoyed this. Tell me if you guys like the new setup. I might be doing this setup for the rest of my book videos. This is actually really comfortable. If you'd like to follow me on Twitter to talk about the books I mentioned or books in general, here you go. I mainly interact on Twitter, but if you would like to follow me on all of my other social medias, they will be linked down in the description below. I also made a book Twitter. That's probably where you will see me talk about books the most, on my book Twitter account. Here it is. I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye everyone.